Hi Pisces, welcome to 8 of Cups Tarot. Welcome to your cards and astrology for the month of February. It's a tumultuous month for sure. There's a lot of changes going on. Things are moving very rapidly and things are going to feel a little bit out of our control. We're coming up on some pretty hefty transits. I know I say that a lot. I know we've all been through so much, but this is kind of a culmination point, and then there's a little bit of a rest. So after February, from mid-March to, June, there's going to be a little bit of a calming period, a time in which we can kind of enjoy ourselves, let loose, be free from some of this stress or this pent-up energy. And that's because of the thing that happens this month. That's because in the middle of the month we finally have the official Uranus-Saturn square. And although it has felt quite intense up to this point, because it's involving Saturn, there is a feeling of it kind of creeping in, with Uranus, you can kind of get that spidey sense that there are deep changes within our foundations going on, within our psyche. The thing about this month for you, Pisces, is that you're going through some horrendously huge 12th house transits. So I don't mean to scare you with that, but when you go through a 12th house transit, there's kind of things going on that maybe you don't see or understand clearly. And that is double true when we're having a Mercury retrograde in that 12th house. So for sure, it's kind of a month to lay low, to try not to make any big decisions, try not to make any big changes right now. You can come up on some very deceptive people. Sometimes during a 12th house transit, you could actually, with Mercury retrograde there, it is an opportunity to heal some past wounds, things that kind of weigh on our subconscious. And during a 12th house transit, it kind of comes to us, or we have these realizations. It could be through therapy, it could be through meditation, it could simply be through dreams or visions, I mean, you could take on some very psychic tones this month, and I think especially with that Neptune in your first house, emphasizing that as well. Now, center of your reading is the High Priestess. Center of your reading, the most important card in the entire reading is this. The emphasis, the point to everything is the High Priestess, meaning whether you know it or not, you already have the answers. Whether you know it or not, you're already on the path. The things that are happening to you now are for your greater good. Now, you are coming out this month in the energy of a Page of Earth. And this strikes me as sort of a vulnerability here. There seems to be a new start going on. Maybe you are entering a new phase or chapter in your life. Maybe you're starting a new relationship or a new job. Maybe you're going back to school. The Page of Earth is indicative that we are planting brand new seeds. We have new interests that we want to kind of invest in. Now, the Page of Swords means it's new. It's probably not reliable. Maybe you're not really sure how much you want to dip your toe in. Definitely a feeling of a new beginning, which often does accompany a feeling of vulnerability. When you think of your first day at school, your first day on the job, or trying to find your way around, feeling of intimidation, feeling like you have to learn new things, even if it's just a change of position at a job, and yet you have to learn new processes and procedures, or maybe you're, getting to know somebody, and, Page of Earth can often represent wanting to make things a little bit official. It doesn't represent an engagement or anything, but it's like the asking on a date, or should we be exclusive, that kind of energy. And the overall energy for you, your environment or your situations at this time, is transformation. So it is truly a gift that you have this high priestess on your side during a transformation process. 12th house can really do some big stuff for us. Usually a 12th house transit like this, and I mean, we are talking about the Sun, Mercury retrograde, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus all gathering together in your 12th house, making a square over to your 3rd house, which is, you know, your neighbors, your colleagues, your friends. It's a very social house. It's also a very psychological house. So as you are going through this 12th house transit, oftentimes bringing up deep emotional stuff up to the surface, when you're in that level of vulnerability, you could also really project things onto others. You might be having some harsh conversations, but the conversations will ultimately bring healing. I will tell you to be careful with how confrontational you are at this time. I know it's really easy to get heated. We've got Mars joining up with Uranus in that 3rd house. So for sure, be very careful driving, operating vehicles, operating machinery. Be careful about identity theft in any way. Double check your passwords and stuff like this. With the Mercury retrograde in your 12th, there could be some theft. Like I said, there's deceptive things that can happen when you're in that much of an energy. It really needs to be about protecting yourself, and I think the High Priestess represents the ability, or maybe some of the hints or guesses about what it is that you need to prepare for. Now, overall energy in the reading is a Ten of Swords, which is telling me that you're moving out of some sort of situation. Something has recently come to an end. 10 of Swords is certainly a feeling of things being over. But certainly there are wounds. There's 10 swords in this person's back. So as you can see, there's some pretty deep wounds. 12th house transits, what happens with those is that we start to really look at that stuff. And we start to really look at how, because of those things, we can often sabotage ourselves in a lot of different ways. I mean, all kinds of ways that we could sabotage ourselves by selling ourselves short, not speaking up for ourselves, indulging addictions. You know, it runs the gamut of anything that you do instinctively. Either it's to cover up a pain or to ignore an issue because it seems easier. Oftentimes the 12th house is all about how we numb our pain. And I get the feeling that maybe what you were doing before, or maybe some stuff that you have going on subconsciously, has come up to a boiling point. And that Ten of Swords can represent even things being said, communication that really hurts somebody's feelings, leaves long-lasting wounds, and maybe it even brings up bigger issues from your past. Maybe it dredges up a whole lot of emotional stuff. Now, what I do like is the first card out, right next to that Ten of Swords, is the Six of Wands, and this is a sense of victory. So whatever it is you're moving away from, whatever hurts or disappointments you've had to deal with, if that is a job that came to an end, a relationship, a friendship, it is over, and I think you feel relief. I think you feel good about the decisions that you make. I think that you know that something had to end in order for you to move on in the new direction. Now, the Six of Wands is always about the new direction. He's obviously moving forward. It's Leo energy, so there is courage, there's bravery, there's confidence. Six of Wands is also an idea of recognition. Maybe there's an area or different areas of your life where you're feeling successful. Maybe there's a relationship or something that you would like to move towards to strengthen it again. Like I said, a strengthening of a commitment. When I feel this card intuitively, I feel a sense of wanting to accomplish. I feel a sense of wanting to gain in some way, maybe wanting to get something. It feels like you're moving towards a goal that you're very passionate about. And what I like is right next to this card is the Queen of Swords. And the thing is, when there's something you want, something you're driven towards, Queen of Swords is a real good buffer to have because she's willing to kind of cut out the excess. This is about mental clarity, and this retrograde Mercury in your 12th house might be giving you the opportunity to clean up some old stuff psychologically, even in your home, even in your life, maybe sorting out some details. There's a sense of getting organized. There's a sense of planning for the future. And the thing about the Queen of Swords is oftentimes we talk about her relationship with discernment, like the ability to choose what is good for you, what is right for you. I see a lot of these energies with the Saturn, Uranus energy. This is about how we parent ourselves. It is about our relationship with perfectionism. And, when you have the 12th house planets, this could be about getting things right in your head. Maybe there's just some old stuff that people said to you a long time ago that you really believed, and you carried it for a very long time. And then you get to this certain point, you have, these aha moments, and you realize that is not true. Maybe somebody said, oh, you have a weird accent, and then suddenly you grew up not wanting to speak, grew up not wanting to talk. You felt like people wouldn't understand you. And I like that the Queen of Swords is here because she could kind of clear those thoughts and those opinions or that negativity out of the way. This is not an emotional time. You're coming out as a Page of Earth, meaning that there's a lot about your stability, money, family, values at this time. And there might be some cuts in your life, some things or some relationships that you have to end or move away from, or even some cycles and habits. Maybe there are some things that you do to sabotage yourself or your relationships, and you're starting to be able to recognize that and confront it in February. Now, what I do love is that this Six of Wands is kind of moving in this direction in line with the Queen of Swords, facing forward, telling me again that there is forward movement. And right next to that comes the King of Swords. So one thing is for sure, if you are interested in something, because I see you in this Queen of Swords energy, kind of determined to get everything out of the way, to remove the obstacles and to move forward in something. And this King of Swords to me kind of feels like a bookmark or an ending point in some way. Now, this could just be the process of mastery that you're going through. If you're leaving a job or you're leaving a relationship and it's been pretty emotional, this is kind of that point where you start moving on with life, putting one foot in front of the other, doing the things, kind of getting back on track. I get an element of getting back on track with this King of Swords, and I'm not really picking up that this is another person. I think this is a progression of your energy. I think this is kind of moving from that feminine energy of the Queen of Swords, which can be quite cutting when she needs to be. And there's something that's much more zen with the King of Swords. He is less likely to fight or to argue his point. He kind of just knows the things that he knows, and other people's opinions or thoughts have no effect on him. And maybe that's the goal for you. Maybe that's what all of this is about. The having to let go of the expectations of others. Having to forgive yourself if there were areas in life where you have disappointed others. Right next to the King of Swords, you pulled the waning moon. What do you need to release? Yeah, well, you have a full moon at the end of January in your 6th house, and then a full moon at the end of February in your 7th house. And it definitely feels in a lot of ways like it's cleanup time, emotionally and maybe even physically. Oftentimes, when you start doing the things physically, the rest of it goes a little bit easier. I know that sounds kind of strange, but if you're feeling restless, if you're feeling the need or the urge to kind of really clean things out, now it could be attics and closets and storage areas, because 12th house is kind of like the hidden areas under the bed, you know, the junk drawers. And I think if you could use that energy in that way, start to get organized, I think you'll be really surprised at how quickly the progress goes. The Queen of Swords and the King of Swords does not waste any time. So I think there's a lot of things that you have the power to change now, and it might just be about cleaning things up and getting disciplined. The next card underneath the 6 of Wands is the Hanged Man. Now this man is obviously in a state of suspension, right? So oftentimes, this is your Pisces energy. Oftentimes it could feel like you're kind of sacrificing yourself, sacrificing your progress. I think here, this Hanged Man, oh my gosh, I almost wanted to say 6 of Swords, and that was weird. I think this Hanged Man is kind of representing obstacles and delays, kind of the universe pointing out to you other things that need to end or be finished before you can move forward. Oftentimes this is indicative that there is something that's kind of out of your control. There's things that you cannot quite get to go your way. Maybe other people aren't cooperating. Maybe things aren't really, going your way or the way that you thought they would be, and that's probably to be expected this month. So the less that you feel you need to control, which is Pisces is pretty good about the surrendering energy. Allow yourself to kind of look at things differently. You're being granted the opportunity to reframe some old stories here. Maybe there's a different way in which you're being asked to be recognized for. Maybe you were this role or this person, or you did this job, and that's what everyone knew you as. And the Hanged Man says that you have to do things, with your heart and not with pride, not with not wanting to disappoint other people. Now the thing is, this Hanged Man and the High Priestess does tell me that any delays, any obstacles that are in your way are kind of for your greater good, right? Let's talk about this High Priestess. I think she's protecting you now. And like I said, you could be getting some really cool downloads, some really cool dreams, some really cool visions that kind of introduce you to things you never thought of. There could be some mirroring going on. Maybe you're seeing behavior in other people and starting to realize that that's something, that other people could say about you. And instead of being defensive like one typically would, right? Defending ourselves to the death, 10 of Swords. But here you're Page of Earth. It feels as though you've been brought down. The ego has been brought down, and now you are softer and more compassionate and maybe able and more likely to be able to see something in a different light. There's an emphasis here on compassion. There's an emphasis here on trust. But the thing that I don't like is that next to the High Priestess is this Fool energy. Fool energy of Aries. And it's directly underneath this King of Swords. Now, like I said, I pick up on a coldness with this King of Swords, not really being emotionally driven, kind of detaching himself, focused on the future, focused on the bigger picture of things. But what I don't like is the Fool seems to be kind of moving in a different direction than that Six of Wands and the Queen of Swords. And I'm not sure if this is an indication of maybe a little bit of a fallback, maybe a little bit of an old lesson that has to come up to be relearned. Now I'm picking up this energy kind of towards the middle of the month. We have a new moon in Aquarius in your 12th house. So, watch out for any areas in life where you're being a little bit naive. If you're ignoring your intuition, kind of just assuming people have the best intentions. You want to be really careful with that energy. Get things documented. Read any documents that you're signing. Read all the contracts. You might be dealing with ways in which people may have taken you for granted. And maybe that's something that leaves you kind of hung up in the Hanged Man energy, not being able to move forward. There's progress, and then there seems to be this stop. This King of Swords, like I said, it may just represent some things that you have to close out before you can move on to this new process. I know that sounds silly, but, maybe it's something like moving on to, what's a good example? Like when you're buying a house and you're about to, finalize it, and then something comes up with the appraisal and you kind of have to revisit the whole negotiation process all over. And the Fool tells me that this High Priestess, it's so important for you to really hone into your intuition. Because there's things that have to change in your life. Transformation. There is things that are transforming in your life. And you want to be able to protect yourself and not get knocked back at a time when you're kind of really getting ahead. Now the Hanged Man underneath is the Moon. And I just feel like there's more information that you need before you proceed in anything that you're planning. The High Priestess underneath is the World in reverse. There's definitely something that you're revisiting from the past. There's definitely something or someone that's caught your eye, caught your attention, maybe an opportunity that's coming back for a second chance. But again, I'm picking up on an element of something being a little deceptive here. Maybe there is more information. High Priestess definitely can represent secrets coming out. The World card comes out next to the Three of Wands. Another card of waiting, another card of suspension. Now the Three of Wands is is much more positive than the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is being punished. The Three of Wands is manifesting and waiting. The thing that I don't like about that Three of Wands is because you are growing into this King of Swords, and underneath is the Fool and the Three of Wands. And I'm just wondering if something distracts you this month and moves you in a different direction. It absolutely feels to me with the Six of Wands, the High Priestess, and the Three of Wands that there seems to be some sort of a setback. And yet the wisdom you gain from it is tenfold. It's completely worth it. The Moon, the High Priestess, and the King of Swords, you know, is a learning process in and of itself. If this King of Swords is somebody that you're dealing with, this could be a Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini, I think there's definitely some information or some things that you may not know. If this is representing somebody, a boss, a business partner, I would be really careful about any contracts this month. Now I say that because we have card 30, the 6th house, card of Virgo. Again, this represents the idea of getting organized. Now this card specifically says routine. And maybe you guys feel with the Hanged Man, maybe you are in a state of suspension, maybe you're unemployed, stuck at home for some reason. And 6th house suggests that the healthy thing is to establish a routine. For some of you, I'm picking up a weird feeling that all of this is to do with some kind of internet fraud of some kind, identity theft kind of thing. So when I see the 6th house, it tells me you should be very careful, like do the things to kind of check up, like run your credit report, check your banking statements, check your credit card charges. You know, it could be things that you've been paying on, maybe even old apps or old memberships for a long time, and it's a good time to kind of work these things out. For some of you, it's something much more deceptive, and so you should be very careful this month. Be careful leaving your, you know, your phones, people who have access to your phones or your banking information in any way. I know that's not a super sexy or exciting message, but, you know, it's a good reminder. The Fool comes out right next to this All That Glitters, breaking down to a 7. And I feel like this is the distraction for you, Pisces. I feel like there seems to be something in the material plane, something that catches your eye and maybe stirs you into moving in a direction that you've been in before. You know, maybe this is an ex that comes back, or an old business partner that gives you an offer you simply can't refuse. You know, somebody that offers you a lot of money or an opportunity and it ends up to be a scam. And maybe it takes you a little more time to get back on your feet, but you've learned a valuable lesson. Sucks. But I think the thing is, it's a lesson that ultimately frees you. And I do feel that way with this 3 of Wands, because suddenly your ability to manifest and bring in the things that are good for you. You know, sometimes you can get into a feeling of resentment and holding on to disappointment if somebody is deceptive. But I don't see that. I see this as being a lesson about being more prepared, about being a little more careful. And I just thought it was funny. I looked at the bottom of the deck of my Wisdom of the Oracle cards, and I honestly, as I was pulling these cards, I was kind of seeing this card pop out in my mind. Clean It Up, card number 21, breaking down to a 3. In a lot of ways, I feel like this is again about clearing your path, removing the obstacles, whatever they are. Maybe there's just a lot of disorganization going on. Maybe there's things that aren't right in your books or your finances that have to be fixed. Or maybe this is about clearing space in your home, clearing out clutter. But clean it up is definitely an energy where you have an opportunity, which we always do with retrograde, to clean up elements of your past, whether it's physical messes or psychological wounds. You know, either way, it's serving a purpose, and it leaves you more space and more room to invite the new things in. So I know I was kind of all over the place, Pisces. There was a lot of different messages flying at me, and I certainly didn't want to ignore anybody who needed to hear that about the identity stuff. But really specifically, I want you to understand that this month is about unleashing and surrendering and healing, so that you could believe in yourself and believe in the new opportunities and the new visions that you have for the future. Things are going to be clear. It's going to be easier for the universe to deliver this stuff for you. It takes making the space physically as well as mentally, believing that you deserve the stuff. You know, believe that you deserve the healthy relationships or the trustworthy business partners. Believe that you deserve the money or the credit score, you know, whatever it is. You have to know that you believe it, and you have to dedicate yourself and do the work. Again, 6th house, Virgo energy, the work. And reminder that we have that full moon in Virgo at the end of the month, more Virgo energy, and that's in your 7th house. So be very careful in business dealings, any kind of purchases as well, because it could represent sales. So just make sure that you're checking out your contracts. I kind of wish it was a cooler reading, Pisces, but you guys probably needed to hear it, and I'm glad I could be the messenger. Guys, I'm not going to be doing a mid-month this month. I've got a lot going on, and I'm taking a new astrology course. I'm going to finish up the signs. I'm doing them a little bit longer this month, and a little bit more in-depth. And then I will probably pop in with either an astrology reading or pick a card for the month as well. So please make sure to stay grounded. February can feel pretty jolting, and it's important for us to keep center, okay? Breath work is really good. Meditation is really good. Just reminding yourself that you are okay, that you can go through these changes, that you can survive. And it doesn't have to take your happy away. No matter what's going on, guys, you have complete control, and nobody can take that power from you. Remember, that's your power. So I hope that you guys have a really wonderful February, and I will be talking to you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.